Previously on Follow the Leader.
This is a social fiction game for 2 players. Both of you together will tell the story of a young dragon and its young rider, both coming of age against an apocalyptic background. You will both tell the story, but each person will take ownership of their character's actions, words, and perspective. It was a snowy day when I found you, and I was lost.
I was cold and shivering on that cliff, hanging to life.
We were both there at the end of our ropes. When I approached you, you recoiled from me.
I was afraid you would push me to my doom.
I saw your eyes go wide, and I knew you were scared. So I hung back.
You said that you wouldn't mind helping me stay warm, and I knew you meant no harm.
Parker takes the hit and stands the hit and can withstand it, but Theo, it's like they've been hit too, and they just sort of like hit the snow, like they've taken a hit to the head, like the impact got them, and they black out and hit the snow. Because it's that good shit. Their nose has started bleeding, but as like Parker does them awake, they sort of like they get up and they sort of sniff a little bit, and they shake their head and just spit, and like this like massive globule of blood just like hits the snow.
We now return to your game, already in progress. So that brings us to scene 3, when we shared a comforting embrace.
Yep. Salving wounds, sharing the night sky, sparkling water, falling through jagged rock formations stretching to the sky like bony fingers. At night, dragon and rider tend to their scrapes and bruises and reflect on their bond. Accentuate the moonlight as it glints off of crystals. Set the mood as sensuously as you can and be gentle in this scene. Dragons have tusks and claws and harsh scales, but in the soft light, those tusks are smooth, claws caress, and scales are comfortably cool. Riders may be brash and hot-headed, with squishy bodies in need of protection, but at this glade, in the light of the stars and the approaching planet, that brashness gives way to gentle assertiveness, and the squishy body is soft and warm at your side. At the end of this scene, the planet moves closer every day. The tides begin to drastically change. Your community is at panic. If you look hard enough, you can see mirrored in the air of the second world, riders and dragons just like yourself. Do they feel the same emotions you do?
And for the wagers, as the dragon, I will warm a body of water with my breath. I will glitter in the moonlight. I will nuzzle the rider with my snout. I will lick the rider's wounds. I will howl into the beautiful night sky.
And for the rider, I will entertain the dragon with tricks or stories. I will give the dragon a gift. I will salve the dragon's wounds. I will hold the dragon's head in both of my hands. And I will watch the mist from our breath rise into the night sky.
So I immediately want to propose the setting before I forget.
Yep.
But since the tides are all wonky, I feel like the grotto is available in a time when it normally wouldn't be accessible.
Yep, here for it. Here for it.
Okay, now we've got to decide on our wagers.
Uh-huh. Okay. What a beautiful parallel that we have going on here, Dora. This is good.
Yep.
So Dora has wagered 4 and I have wagered 3.
Perfect.
Excellent. So, do we think this is like that day or the next day after the facing danger? Is this literally sort of followed on from what we just saw?
I want to say this is that day.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
And Parker just like very very gently takes Theo to the grotto.
Yes, good. Excellent. All right. And I think they get there, and Theo is reluctant to get off Parker's back at first. And he's just sort of like holding on to him and holds them extra tight for a moment, just like squeezes them before dismounting. And as they get down, they see the side of Parker's head where he took that hit, and they're just like, "Oh, I should. I think I saw something growing in here last time that's good for that. Let me just..." And scurries off to, they're a bit slower than usual, a bit wobbly still, but gathers one of the non-glowing mosses and scoops up, and gets that, and finds like a little gap in the rocks and starts like mixing some of this moss with water to create like a paste. And if you, and like beckons Parker over, and so they can start like applying this sort of hastily homemade poultice to Parker's temple.
Yeah, Parker definitely goes over there and just closes their eyes as Theo works and just says, I'm glad you're safe.
I'm glad you're safe too. I'm sorry that happened, that you had to do that, Bo.
It was my choice. And Parker takes a breath and it's just like, I'd do anything to protect you.
Says Jade, not Theo. I mean, Theo might have that kind of look on their face, but they don't make that noise. That was very much Jade. At that, I think, Theo's been like putting this salve on one side and just like, so their hand is already on one side of Parker's head, and then reaches up with the other and like just looks into Parker's eyes for a moment. And just like, and are you? You do know that, right?
That was Dora, not Parker. Parker just looks shocked for a moment.
Mm-hmm.
And then he says, "You're so soft, I don't want you to ever come to harm." And, like, he leans up, and, like, I'm imagining there's still, like, a trickle of blood from the nosebleed, and, like, he licks it away and is just like, I'd do anything to keep that from happening again.
I think Theo does the forehead thing again, like, just... Oh, no, wait. First off, they're blushing, like, a lot. And when they press their forehead to Parker can feel their warmth coming from their cheeks. I don't think they say anything in that moment, but, like, Parker can feel, like, gratitude. And, like, I don't know how to say how I'm feeling, and, like, can just feel this, like, overwhelming positive feeling that lacks words because Theo can't verbalize it. But Parker feels it.
Yeah, Parker nuzzles at their face. And Theo feels a reciprocated fondness and softness.
This is very good and very gay.
And I think, like, the moonlight is streaming into the grotto because the moon is kind of low and glinting off of Parker's scales.
I think Theo pulls back and just sees that and just, like, lets out this little gasp of amazement. And like, because there's, like, the bioluminescence going on, and then there's Parker being all sparkly and beautiful. And I think they say that actually, just sort of like almost an exhale more than a word, but just like beautiful.
I don't think dragons can blush, but there's still that sort of bashful feeling.
And I think for a moment there's just this silence between them, but it's like completely comfortable, and their breathing falls into sync as they have this moment, and Theo is still like touching Parker, and the breath as they exhale, because it's obviously still cold, and like each time they breathe out in sync, like this little cloud of mist like comes from both of their mouths and mingles with each other and then disperses up and outwards.
That's really good.
You want to add any more?
I think that's a really great place to end.
Cool. How did you do?
Unfortunately, I only got 3.
And I hit all 3 of mine. Do you lose a bond if you wager and don't gain?
Yes.
Okay, so then on balance we would have got 5?
Correct.
Cool.
The 4th scene is when we soared with 1 set of wings. With our bond growing stronger every day, we're nearly unstoppable. Soaring through the spires of sharp mountains, we loop and dazzle with acrobatic displays. Pirouettes and spirals on 1 set of wings, with rider and dragon moving together as one. Daredevil displays and risky maneuvers are now as easy as breathing, and we do both as one body. Mirrored movements belay a bond more than physical. Both rider and dragon share one mind now. This scene showcases the strongest bond ever known. This is more than a joyous ride in the sky, however. You two have been called to complete some task. Someone is in danger, an item needs gathered from a dangerous locale, or an urgent message needs sending. Who sent you? Who calls for assistance from a brave dragon and their exuberant rider? What impressive display do you flare out while saving the day? At the end of this scene, after all we have saved the day, the planets start to fall.
Okay. Things I can the wager. For the rider, I will stand tall on the dragon with no need to hold on at all. I will admire our shadow as it looks like one beast in flight over the ground. I will lose myself in the smell of the air and the feeling of the dragon's muscles under mine. I will share my plan with the dragon without speaking a single word. I will save the day.
And the wagers I can make: I will scream joy into the sky. I will spiral downwards, pulling up at the last moment. I will admire the rider's flowing hair. I will ride the thermals, wings still and heart flowing, and I will save the day. Okay, we've both made our wagers, and once again, we've decided 3 each.
So what do we think this mission is that we've been sent on?
First I want to say I think maybe this is a couple of years down the line.
I'm down with that.
And I think Parker's much bigger now.
I hate myself because you know what the first thing I thought was when you said that?
What's that?
Hot. Oh, I am what I am, and what I am needs no excuses. Look, I've never been shy about my proclivities on this podcast. We're playing a game with a dragon and a rider that are psychically linked. I don't see why I should start now.
That is completely fair.
Anything else you want to establish? Fuck.
Let's say that this is more springtime.
I like that.
Just because, like, get us out of the winter, get us into...
Sure. And while I don't know if this was one of the wages that you picked, in case it was, and I want to facilitate you, but also the visual is incredibly good. I think Theo's hair, which was already sort of loose and longish around like their ears, is now sort of like to their shoulders. And they need to like wear it up.
Okay.
To keep it out of their way. So.
Sounds good.
Okay.
So what have we been sent to do?
I like the thought that, well, like the planets are about to fall, that maybe we've been sent to like a rumoured old wizard's tower or something, or an old observatory, something, old knowledge about this thing that is happening. Like, is there anything that can be done? Is there anything? Or maybe it's a person that they need to find, but it's like they've been sent in pursuit of knowledge. Like, it's like a last-ditch effort to get something, to try and do something.
Yeah, I like that.
But it's like a long journey, and like they're the only ones that could make the journey.
I like that a lot.
I'm imagining like this wizard's tower or this observatory like being like on like a lighthouse, almost like on some cliffside that nobody's been to in years. Maybe part of the land has crumbled away around it, so it's just like this rocky outcropping with like a tower on top of it.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
Cool. Do we think that now they've been at this a couple of years, like, is there any kind of saddle situation like going on to make it, or is it literally just like they didn't start with it and they don't need it, so they don't have it?
I like the idea that they don't need it. Like, maybe Parker's grown some spines, not in response to this, but maybe Parker's grown some spines that make it a little easier to stay put.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like, as he's become a more mature dragon, so...
Yeah. Love it. Love it a lot. I think the scene starts with that running leap from the first scene.
Oh, yeah.
And that plummet down the cliffside, and then that pulling up at the last second to skim along the water. But this time, like, Theo doesn't need to cling on. Like, it's literally just with their legs and their arms are outstretched. You know, like in Rescuers Down Under when the kid's riding the eagle?
Yes. Like
that good shit. Like, complete faith in Parker and just the freedom of flight.
Yeah, I like that a lot. That's a really good visual, and I think, Parker's just, like, with him being bigger now, I feel like, it takes fewer wing beats for them to stay in the air, and, like, mm-hmm. Theo can just feel the muscles moving underneath them.
Mm-hmm. And I think as they do that, Theo just closes their eyes again because there's that trust, and it's not fear, because they don't have that anymore, not when they're with Parker. It's just like they can lose themselves in the moment, and like the smell of the sea and the breeze moving over it and the beat of wings. And although they're on this important mission, it's just sort of like they're totally at peace. Like, this planet is on a collision course with theirs, but in this moment, it doesn't matter.
I think they climb higher and higher until they get well above the ocean, and
mm-hmm.
like there's this point where the warm air is separated from the cool air that's closer to mm-hmm. the ocean, and Parker's able to just glide through the pockets of warm air, keeping the both of them aloft.
I think that smooth gliding is where, like, Theo, like, unhooks their knees and just sort of, like, stands up and just lets themselves, their arms outstretched, like, their arms are like mirror Parker's wings, and it's just like the two of them there. This is very good. I wish I could draw.
I know, right? And I think it's that moment where there's just that sense of oneness and peace, and Parker just lets out this joyous roar.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they can't contain all of this. This feeling of rightness is too big, and this feeling of happiness to be with Theo.
And I think Theo laughs too and, like, drops down from that standing position to take their normal riding position and just, like, wraps their arms around Parker's neck and is, like, laughing with them. And I think then just says quietly, okay, we've got a job to do. And points, pulls a compass out from like the little bag and gives Parker the bearing. And they, not quite Night Fury style, because copyright. But there's definitely sort of a beating of Parker's like, and they just sort of like dart off in that direction. And it's the good shit.
I feel like we can kind of abstract out what happens when they get there.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I almost want to flip a coin to see if there's anybody there by the time they get there, or if they get there and there's just ruins.
Yeah, I'll roll a d2.
Okie dokie.
1 there is, 2 there isn't.
Yep.
There is.
Oh man. So what do we find?
Do we find Marius? Thank the gods for small favors.
Oh my god. We find an older, crotchetier Marius who's like intentionally not seen anybody for a while, but has been studying the planets as it's been falling.
And does Marius come back with them, or do they have anything to help? Do they have even just wisdom to maybe soothe upset people? Or is like Marius just like, nope, planet's fucked, sorry?
I don't think that Marius is just like, nope, planet's fucked. I think they probably have like sheafs and sheafs of paper and parchment that they've written on, and like they've got ideas of how this can be salvaged, but there's nothing concrete yet. They just need more time. They need to not be distracted. But I think they make copies of some of the papers to give to Parker and Theo, and just like, you do with this what you will. I'm going to keep working. Now get out of my hair.
Okay. I'm sorry, I'm just really amused by the fact that you described Marius as being more crotchety, and I was like, is that possible?
Well, consider also their source and their inspiration. So
absolutely.
It can definitely happen.
So Theo and Parker head back. Does that count as saving the day?
I feel like it's a successful mission, so I think so.
Okay.
Like, we get back and we're hailed as heroes because we have this treasure trove of new knowledge, and there's hope again that the day might be saved.
Okay. So, I got all 3 of mine.
I got all 3 of mine.
Booyah. Okay. Finally, the 5th real scene is when we face the apocalypse. We can see the faces of the riders from another world. As gravity blends between the geologic colossi, we can meet the other riders on their world with a powerful leap. The planets move to intersect, and as the clash of rocks and rending of stones splits the air, powerful storms burn up the atmosphere. There is no denying that this is the end of the world, of both worlds. We must save who we can, move them to the far ends of our home. We must do the impossible and find safe havens for those we love as our planets collide. If our bond is strong enough, we can push ourselves past the limits of what would be possible alone. However, if our bond splinters, falters, harbours any imperfections, the day will be lost. We live on small worlds, and with this collision, however apocalyptic as it may seem, there may be hope of a salvageable future. Riding through splintering spires, moving mountains, collapsing cliffs and breaking bluffs, we ride on wings that grow fatigued. We must push, push, push to the end. Now is the time to tally our bonds and determine our fate. And that part comes after.
As the dragon, I can wager I will race between closing teeth of jagged rock. I will take a blow that would have destroyed the rider. I will see another dragon crushed to death under a meteoric boulder. I will be unable to save the rider when they ask for help, and I will burn white hot when it seems all hope is lost.
As the rider, I will see death approach for my friends. I will run to the dragon's side as a mountain falls. I will be knocked from the dragon by a massive boulder. I will stare up at the destruction, unable to move. I will temper like hot steel when it seems all hope is lost. Man, how angsty do we want to make this? And I know who I'm talking to as I say this. I mean, we did decide to play a game where you literally face the apocalypse. So, yes.
Yup. Okay, we've made our wagers. I've wagered 3 and Jade has wagered 4.
I've almost run out of stuff to wrap around my hand.
Oh my goodness.
I mean, it could have been a longer piece of thing as well, but you know. Okay. Yo, the apocalypse is here.
Yep.
I think this scene starts with a massive chunk of rock and mountain sliding away from the planet above us, heedless of gravity, and crashing down or up from there down to us, and it slams into the ocean, and this tidal wave just starts barreling towards the village. And there's things that Theo and Parker can do, but this is a lot. And maybe it started far away, but there is this coming. There is no diverting this. This is death coming.
Yeah. Do we start off together or do we start off apart?
I feel like we're together. I feel like over the time, like, Parker lives in the village with everybody now. Like, has that cave still. They have their spaces the two of them go to, but, like, Parker is as much a part of the town as Theo is.
Okay. I think maybe their first instinct is to try to get as many people out of the town as possible.
Yeah, absolutely.
And this one's hard.
It is. I'm just, like, really kind of blown away by the visual, like, from the playtext of, like, these mountains crumbling both above and below. Like, I have my problems with Inception, but that visual of, like, these two rocky areas, like, one on top of the other, falling up into each other is just... Mwah.
It's really good.
Mm-hmm.
They're just stuck between a quote-unquote rock and a hard place, because it's like, where do you take the villagers? You've got the tidal wave that threatens on one end, and you've got the mountains on the other end falling into each other.
I think they just try to get inland to maybe the hope that where the mountains are breaking away, there might be some kind of cliff face, something like where they can hide away from the water. So if the...
I'm sorry, you broke up. Where the mountains are breaking away, there might be...
another cave, like Theo and Parker's cave, but like on an opposing side, so the water can crash over the top, and maybe there the people will be safe.
Yeah, that sounds like... I hate saying this, but I feel like, you know, maybe Parker is separated from Theo a little bit because they're trying to ferry as many people as possible to this other side.
Yeah.
Like, starting with the young and the infirm. But it's quickly becoming obvious it's a lost cause because there are just too many people. And maybe their only hope, somebody's been able to make sense of the papers that Marius gave us. Yeah. And so it ends up we have to protect them while they work on whatever magic ritual Marius started to try to stop the planets from falling.
Yeah. And I think while all this is going on, like, Theo, who's always has really not gotten that much taller, But it's always been sort of like, as I said, like this person people don't apologize to, but like is taking stock and is standing straight and tall and is like this voice of authority now, and it's just like directing people what they can, sending people just like go this way, we'll carry as many, but this we have to do if we can protect this, and people are listening. And like there's a seriousness and a gravitas to Theo that there's never been before, and their voice doesn't shake or stammer, and people listen.
Yeah.
And this is not the way they would have chosen for this to happen, but it has.
Yeah, I think we eventually get to the point where like boulders are starting to fall on the village, though.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just really difficult because there's so many of them, and it's like Parker tries to go and muscle some of them out of the way, like, you know, run into them to knock them off course to protect what they can.
Yeah. And I think there's like this, seems ridiculous to say earth-shattering when the apocalypse is happening, but I think there's this terrifying cracking sound, and the ground beneath them the like starts to split, and part of literally the ground like falls away, and I don't know how many people are lost with it, but like Theo like bolts to Parker and like clambers on, and it's so different to the first time, and just like swings on, and they have to dive down to try and get some of these people that they can. They can't save all of them, but maybe they can save some, and they're gonna fight to save every life that they can.
Yeah, and I think Parker rushes through some of the closing rocks to try to shepherd people as far out of harm's way as possible. Like, it seems hopeless, it seems like a lost cause, but Parker, like, the worse things seem to get, the more determined Parker is to see this through.
I don't know how we should end this scene. My God. Oh. I didn't look ahead about how you're supposed to finish this up. We've got to count bonds, but I'll tell you what, I think as they're doing this is when, like, a boulder falls, and they're too busy, the pair of them, helping other people, and it, like, clips one of Parker's wings and sends him into a spin. And because they've never needed a saddle, they've never needed anything to stay on, that's when Theo falls.
And I'm not sure that Parker's able to react in time, and I'm not sure that Parker's able to save them. And I think this is probably where the scene ends, so we count up bonds and see what the results are.
Yep. Well, I'm pleased to announce that I got all 4 of my things.
And I got all 3, so we've got 7 for this one.
Okay, so total up 1 from the first scene, 6 from the second, so that's 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, plus 7, 32. 32 bonds.
So, for 26 through 35 bonds, through your bravery you've pulled through. The worlds will never be the same, but you have each other, and you have hope for the days ahead. You have 4 images to show in the epilogue. The epilogue is when we saw the end. These are the final words of our story. This gives us the opportunity to show the images of our fate. Based on your bond result, you will have a varying number of images available to narrate. This scene is a montage with small images or moments meant to represent fuller action. Take turns, with the writer starting first. Use this epilogue to wrap up threads, to put a cap on emotions, and to provide what closure we can. It may not be possible to resolve everything that came up during play, so choose wisely. Give narrative priority to what you think is important. If you received a good ending based on the amount of bonds you had in the final scene, narrate how your lives recover after the cataclysm. If your ending was less than favorable, narrate still images, debris floating in the mist, or images of grief.
God, that's some good writing there. Damn. Okay. I think the first image is that person that was working the magic. And it worked. We gave them enough time. And the world stopped shaking. And things stopped floating up into the sky. And things stopped falling from it. And people stop screaming, and it goes quiet and still and calm. And I think that tidal wave just sort of peters out. It's sort of right at the cliff, and then just sort of like, rather than hitting it, it's sort of like, you know, if you ever see like what flour looks like when you throw it up into the air, like that kind of disperse. I think it does that. And it's like rain falling down. And that's image 1.
I think my first image is Parker landing next to Theo and, like, nuzzling at them and making sure that they're alive and just pouring relief into their bond when he can feel them breathing and trying to help them stand up as they've done it, and Parker doesn't want to be the only one left standing now that it looks like the world isn't going to end.
The next image we see is Parker and Theo together, and I think Theo definitely took some, and is not the same. Like, I feel like took enough damage that riding on Parker is the only time they can move easily now. I think that they took an injury in the fall that means that they just can't anymore. But at least with Parker, there's like that freedom is still there, and they're doing okay. And it's taking getting used to. But the image is them meeting with a dragon and a rider from the other planet, because these two planets are locked in like this ridiculously close orbit now. And the tides are definitely still very strange because gravity is not what it was. But like you can walk on the world and see this other planet like, what, a mile away? 2 miles away? And so new trade needs to set up. New ways of being needs to happen. And it's Theo and Parker being like ambassadors for their world.
I like that. I think the next image is Parker helping to rebuild the village with some other dragons. Like maybe dragons from the other world. And I think there's the implication that the dragons are helping each other. Like Theo and Parker go to the other world to help rebuild sometimes too.
Mm-hmm.
But they're inseparable.
Mm-hmm. The third image is the two of them returning to their grotto, and it's not the same place anymore, but a piece of it survived. And where it used to be like this very enclosed space where a little of the light could get in and like illuminate the water, now it's more like an open hand. It's completely open to the sky. So the bioluminescent isn't quite the same anymore, but it's like this seat, this chair that the two of them can sit in, away from when things get too much, when ambassadoring gets too much. It's still far enough away for the two of them to sit and look up at the moon and look up at the other planet and just be with each other. And it's quiet and it's good.
I want to say the next image is them growing old together.
Yes.
Like, once they're bonded, dragon and rider share a lifespan, and so it like splits the difference between dragon and rider, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And so you see them growing old together, and maybe Parker's wings are getting a little creaky, but they still fly. It's not the same acrobatics, but they're still together out there on the wind.
My last image. So you can have the super sad / bittersweet one. My gift to you, my friend.
Yep.
Is the two of them in like the house that they share on a veranda or something, and and it's part of it's open to the sky, and this child approaches like maybe 12, 13 years old, similar age to what Theo was in the prologue, and they're full of excitement because they found a baby dragon, and it's the two of them sharing this moment of recognition and getting to see somebody else begin the journey that they went on together.
I think the final image is Parker curled up around Theo. They're both old. You know, Theo's probably gray or white at this point, and Parker has all sorts of silver scales around their snout, and you know, their eyes are kind of roomy. And I think this is them in their home next to a fire, and they're both curled up with each other, and I think they both fall asleep. Sorry, I'm tearing up at the...
No, it's good. It's good.
All right.
And once the epilogue ends, cut your bonds and let go of the other person's hand. The game is over.
Oh, this is such a good game.
Yep. Can recommend. Dang.
All right, so it's time for our outros.
Yep.
I've been Dora. You can find me on Twitter at HarpyDora. You can find the games I've written at harpydora.itch.io. You can find the podcast at FTLcast on Twitter and on Patreon. And you can get cool rewards like bloopers and outtakes and archives of our live streamed games. And a special Patreon-only game of This Town is Full of Monsters is forthcoming. Or is forthcoming as of this time of the recording. And playing with me today, my partner in crime, my partner in angst.
Crying.
Yep.
I have been Jade. You can still find me on Twitter at JadeOxfordRose. If you want to come cry about this with me, you are more than welcome. And if you want to see me play D&D with a different flavour of angst, you can do so at twitch.tv/naturalruckus, 7 p.m. UK time, Mondays and Fridays.
All right. Let's clap.
Let's clap.
Hi, it's Dora, and I just wanted to thank you for listening. If you've enjoyed us, please consider leaving a rating on iTunes, telling your friends about us, or tweeting about our show using the FTLcast hashtag. No, seriously, we crave the validation and it helps us out. Your support really means a lot. Thanks again!